and I'm glad that you are here. And you know, I just got my Matrix of the Soul. I don't know if you know that. That is a German medium who has channeled the soul matrix, and it's a very big work of you know, a very big, how do you say, body of work. And I had done my soul matrix done. And that said, my purpose is communicating and bringing people together. And I got to know that only on Friday, but you see what we are doing. That's wonderful. So I'm glad that you are here. And I think we start just with a check-in. We say who we are, where we are, and just a little bit around yourself, 2 or 3 minutes if you want, and then we go into our co-creative dialogue. Who wants to start? Oh, okay, Gina.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Gina Donaldson. I live in Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island. I actually look out my window at the United States, at the San Juans and the beautiful mountains there. I have been living in Victoria for the last 6 years. I have 2 aspects to my business. One aspect is I do business consulting. So I'm currently working with the Navy on creating distributed learning so that we can learn from a distance, which is a big jump for them. And the other part of my business is personal passage planning, which is to help people prepare and plan and respond and recover from times of change. I love sailing. I love gardening. I try to stay fit, and I love eating good food and drinking wine. And about a year ago, I had the pleasure of visiting Heidi in Paradiso.
Yeah, and we were in our restaurant, Ella, at Materna Scoperta, because Ella is sort of a neighbor. It's about 7 kilometers she is distant, and once a week, normally we go out for lunch. And I brought you to this restaurant, which seems to be very, how do you say, original.
Authentic.
Yeah, authentic, exactly. So thank you. Mm-hmm. Who comes now?
Okay, I will be the next one.
Okay.
It's very familiar for me to be in between only women. That's it's very common in the moment that everywhere, all the Zooms or wherever I am, there are women, 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 and I'm a bit hungry for men, but I don't find it today. I see that. So my name is Volker. I'm living in Germany. Yeah, I'm retired, and yeah, I'm quite busy in the moment with creating a new community for elder people, which is not easy to find, because usually communities, I want to live in a community. I was living most of my life in communities, and it's very hard to get into a community when you are old, because they're looking for what is quite clear for younger people, because you know they need the power to build up something and so on, and they feel that you will just rest there and die soon. So they are not very interested in people about which are older than 65 years, and I'm 70. So I have to create my own one, and it's almost done, but that's most of the time I spend in working on this subject.
Okay, I was noticing that it's a little bit creaky, the microphone. I thought it was because we are not all muted, but there must be something which is click, 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 click.
Really?
Talk. So maybe you have to go a little bit backward. We will try it out.
Okay.
Okay, Griselda, I muted you, but you can unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you. I also thought maybe my window was creating some noise, because I can hear the noise of the birds, which is nice, but can also be distracting. So I closed the window a little bit too. Well, my name is Griselda, and I'm in Southern California. Just very grateful to be here with you all, just a community. I've joined a couple of meetings here in San Diego with the San Diego Integral Group, and I have found it to be very nourishing. I was sharing with someone, I said, usually I'm looking for my tribe, and for some reason I go sporadically, and then I'm like, why don't I go more often? Because this is part of my tribe. I feel like people are very authentic, and although I don't always understand all the integral concepts because some of it can be very abstract in some ways, the connection, the authentic connection feels very tangible, and I really find it nourishing, and I appreciate that. Some of the things that are keeping me busy these days is working on some art projects, and I just find that very nourishing. I'm mostly staying at home because my work was affected. I work for 2 school districts, and that has definitely created some anxiety, but bringing myself back into the moment and finding gratitude in looking at the things that I can still quote unquote manage to have a sense of order in the midst of everything else happening. That's so. Thank you.
I think that leaves me. I'm Ella. I'm 77 years old, but I'm not old, Folke. I don't understand how you can describe yourself as old. That's not just something you are, in my opinion. Yes. And I get lots of young men after me, and I say, if you were only a bit older, I would be interested, but you're not. Anyway, I live in Umbria in Italy. I've been here for 12 years. And not far from Heidi. Before that, I lived in England for 20 odd years. And before that, I lived in Sweden, where I was born. I am a pensioner. I used to work in, I worked in lots of different things. Editorial, publishing, educational television. I've been a factory worker. I've done all kinds of things. I've done cleaning. I've done everything. Every single thing you can think of, I've done. And now I kind of just live and get on with my life. And I like it here. And I like the situation I'm in at the moment very much.
Okay, thank you. And I'm, as you know, I'm Heidi, and I like the situation also very much, because in some way there is some weight away from my shoulders. It doesn't have to be all the time, but it's sort of like it is a choice what you do. I mean, I did before, and it was my own choice too, but I put myself into pressure somehow, and then I have to go there, and then, even Pilates, and now we do it on internet and things. So that was all these appointments, and now it's sort of facultative, how do you say, as on your own choice what you do. Maybe it's not, but the feeling is like this. So I feel much lighter than before. The only thing, when I have to go shopping now, I cannot go anymore where I had to pass Ella. I have to keep on our part here in the little town. I don't like it so much, because so for every little thing you have to go in a different shop and always wait outside until it's your turn. While when you are in the supermarket, now when it's your turn, at least you get everything. But no supermarkets here, but if this is the only negative thing, it doesn't really matter. Altogether, I'm fine, because you have been here, Gina, no? I'm seeing your orchid over there. It's so beautiful. With all the space around me, it's, it's perfect. I love it. And you don't see the weekend. No, normally we had the Romans, the motorbikers. They always went as our streets are all like this. No, they have such a joy to run around. It was always, ew, ew, ew. And now it's silent. And Ella knows something about that, because she is above the street and she always hears the cars and the motorbikes, and now it's all silent. So there are many good things about this situation. And when we are now talking about how it's affecting you and us, I think we should think about the good and the bad sides. Okay, so with that, I open the co-creative conversation. We keep muted, and when you want to say something, you unmute yourself so the others know that's your turn, that you want to answer or to enter something. So who wants to start? Or continue with what you already said, or what had been said so far?
Unmute. Okay. Okay. So my feeling from the time when we knew this was coming to Canada, which was much later than most of the world, my feeling was that this was going to be a time where we could reflect and make our lives more simple. And because I work with much younger people, as well as have many friends in their, I'm just going to take care of that. It's my dad. My husband will get it. I'm going to put it in the drawer. There. I feel like there's so much programming in our world, like the schedules you talked about, Heidi, and all that, that people need to just slow down a little in their own homes and return to basics. So simple things that I've been thinking of is my coworkers who are young parents say, well, what am I going to do with my kids? I'm like, well, what haven't you done with your kids so far? You could teach them to clean their room. You could teach them to bake. You could teach them to iron. Does anybody remember that? You could teach them to garden. I was thinking yesterday about all the games I used to play by myself, Jumpsies, where you made your own game out of elastics. And you could play it with others, or you could play it with a tree. Like you could play it by yourself if you were by yourself. So I'm hoping that in so many ways, we will just slow down, pause, and think about how we can also reduce our negative impact on the earth. That's it.
Okay, I totally agree with that. Nobody seems to want to carry on. First of all, if I disappear now and then, it's because I got my 2 female cats have just gone out, and I got a male cat that's after them, and I have to go and throw something at him every now and then to tell him to leave them alone. It's that time of year, obviously. Well, I agree that this is a time to reflect, and everybody I everybody I talk to agree that this is the time to actually stop and reset the button and reflect. And also because from yesterday, I think it was, I decided I don't really want to hear or even think about the coronavirus anymore, because it's just, we've overloaded with nothing else. And so I've started listening to poetry and reading things. And I was just listening to Under the Milkwood by Dylan Thomas with Richard Burton reading. And I was listening to T.S. Eliot reading the lovely poem, Time Present and Time Past. And, you know, because I was kind of sliding into this madness of concentrating on something which I don't really want to concentrate on, because it's not living, it's existing. And then the way that it kind of traps you into a one-way system of, you know, of thinking about it. I decided, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, this is just so destructive. I don't want to know anymore. So I decided to do other things. But at the same time, I must admit that people I speak to, everybody has the kind of same ideas, that we have gone totally wrong and mismanaged, not just our own lives, but also the universe, you know, the planet. We've managed to we are so destructive, and now we can see. I saw a film on Facebook recently that an alligator was walking around the streets in America, and there's no people around, and there are dolphins swimming around Venice, and everybody is realizing that nature is recovering. And then obviously they're going to realize the impact that we've had. I think they were sort of getting there already, but this has really brought it home. And apart from the fact that I think people also realize that you don't need to go shopping every day. You don't need to go to the commercial centers that are now closed here. You don't need to go and cut your hair. You just let it grow, look, you know, and this kind of thing. Life goes on. And so I think that's the very positive thing about it. And the sense of solidarity, people calling up saying, do you need shopping? Do you need help? Do you need this? Do you need that? How are you doing? And I think that's been a wonderful thing. With lots of people who I haven't spoken to for years, all of a sudden are calling. So, and the solidarity, I think, is the thing that I'm hoping we're going to keep after this is all over. Some people don't really believe we're going to be that lucky. But I think we have to work on that one and really try and remember these days as the point where things changed. Because one thing I think is fairly certain, if we go back to the normal, this is all going to happen again because we needed to learn the lesson. Okay.
Yes, it's the same for me, Ella, to see how quickly a change in the climate is coming back. That is amazing. I didn't even, which we are fighting for a better climate policy or whatever, we didn't expect that it could work so quickly. I mean, not the whole thing has changed, but anyway, to see that the water getting clean in Venice so quickly, I can't even understand what has changed so quickly in Venice. I mean, there are no tourists anymore, but was that the only reason why it was so terrible there? How?
Sorry, it was also the boats and the fact that Venice is in such economic dire straits that they had money given to them by these big cruise ships. So they could go up near Venice because it's a spectacle to be on a sort of 10-story cruise ship and see Venice from close by. And that was, I mean, that really was so dangerous for the environment there, you know. And so because there's no boat traffic, and especially not the people. So it's not just the people, it's the boats mainly.
Yeah. Okay, but also I'm living in a city here in Germany. It's Nuremberg, not a really big city, but the air was terrible here anyway, and it changed more or less from one day to the next, and that's incredible that we can imagine now. It will help if we change even little things, you know. So we can imagine that. I'm really full of hope that that will be at least one impact from the whole crisis now, that that there will also be a change in all the climate policy after, and in many other aspects. But so I will say the same. After a little shock in the beginning, I'm more or less at the point to say thank you for the whole new situation. We have to get adjusted to it, but it's fine. It's not hard to, and we will create a new future already now. You know, that can't be changed after the crisis anymore.
I do agree, but I think there's much more work to be done because not everybody is thinking like we are thinking. Most people just want to get back into their jobs and do the same thing as before. And so, although we have seen, it's also a danger that we see that nature comes back so quickly, because then they might say, oh, we can do it again, and once a year we do 1 week of nothing, and then is everything fine. So I think the insight is there, but not on the part of the people who want to earn a lot of money by us doing the same stuff as we did before. So I think the little people who are also who are paying most in this situation, they have to stand up and fight for a change, for a real change. The economic system that we have is just killing most of the people, and now literally. That's the irony.
I think I listened. I don't know if you listened to this thing with Varoufakis, this that I sent you, Heidi. What's interesting in this is the people, like the nurses and the junior doctors and the people who collect the garbage and the people who look after the old people and the people in the shops. It's the low-paid people that are now, everybody knows they're kind of heroes, because they are the essential, it's called essential work. And so I'm hoping that we now see these people as doing something essentially, essential, it's important, you know. Whether the banks are working doesn't really matter anymore. And so I'm hoping that this is going to be, that people won't forget that, and that they will realize that we are in the situation we are because they've been cutting down on health care for years. The politicians, they just invest in other stupid things, you know, like high-speed trains and you know, runways for the aeroplanes and various things like that. And now people realize they can also have a meeting like this. They don't need to fly to America to have a conference with their colleagues. So I'm kind of hoping that there are so many good things that will come out of this. And I don't think that most people want to go back to where we were. I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to know what most people think, because I'm here on my own, you know, and I don't speak to most people. Anyway.
Griselda, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I too have been reflecting and also been around other people where the conversation and the dialogue is along the lines of some of the things that you guys are sharing about how can we come out of this better in a way, how can we grow from this experience, and also how can we come together as a community. I grew up in a small town of Mexico, and so I'm kind of like, I understand this concept of village, but transitioning to growing up the rest of my life, more than half of my life here in the US, it's more individualistic. And so it's kind of like having two opposites coming together and noticing that. And so I think I see some shifts in some people, which is really nice, and noticing that we drop the focus of just me, but it's we. And so having that we space, I think, is really important, coming together as a community, looking after each other. And one of the things that came up for me, because right now I'm home and I'm very, I feel relatively safe. I started feeling this sense of, can I do something to help? And how can I be of service to others? And I am a little limited in resources financially, but I do have time. And so I noticed and I started thinking of projects where I could do that could contribute, whether it's making a greeting card and sending it to a nursing home that can brighten someone's day, you know, something so simple, but it can make an impact. And so I want to feel that I'm helping and contributing. And also, I do want to be mindful of how my own actions can harm another human being. So I do feel a sense of grief because I love hiking, I love being out in nature. And now I feel like I can't really go to my regular hikes because my neighbors are now coming out to walk. And I'm like, oh, I get to meet my neighbors, but not really, because, you know, it's not safe. And so that's part of the difficult time. But yeah, I do notice that I don't have to go to the store every week like I thought I needed to. And so that feels really good and comforting, because I just also have to think about other people and also be more mindful of my consumption. Like the other day, I was literally crying because I did order some hair product, because it's a particular hair product that I think I need so that my hair can look nice. And I was crying because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have a hair product, but maybe someone's life was at risk because they needed to deliver me that product. And so very conscious of that, and it just felt very heavy, acknowledging that for myself. And so it's little things like that that I feel do make an impact. And also, like, even if I'm purchasing food online so that they can deliver, there's still the idea that someone has to pick it off of the shelf for me, and my life will be safe, but maybe their life will be at risk. And so those are things that help me put it in perspective in terms of how interconnected we are, and that I am depending on someone else to help me out. And so I'm just very grateful for the awarenesses I have and the insight, and very grateful that we also do have people who are in a place of calm and having that sense of groundedness. Because I feel like if all of us were running around like chickens without a head, it would be just too chaotic. And so to me, it's very comforting to know that there's some people out there who have this sense of calm. Like, yes, it is scary, but we're gonna get through it. And to me, that anchors me, especially when I'm in panic mode, because I have been. And so just so grateful, very grateful. And I do look forward to growing from this. And I'm very open to the blessings, because there is little miracles that are happening, like you all mentioned. And I'm just like focusing on that instead of what's missing or what did we lose, looking at what are we gaining from this and how can we grow. So that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Yeah, you are talking about the panic mode and then the being calm and so on. I wonder if you had a similar experience as I had. At the beginning, when the shutdown was, first I thought, oh yeah, and not so. Then there came, when you saw the news, what Ella was talking about it, the first days I always was listening to get oriented, and then I felt the panic mode coming on, no? Up to a certain point where I decided, no, that's not good. So, you know, and I stopped also to read and to listen to things, but not completely. And now, already a week or so, I feel quite good. And I can watch the numbers, and I once or twice a day, I watch even the news or something, or an article. There are some very good articles around, you know, but it doesn't really put me into panic anymore. It's more like curiosity. And still the numbers don't go really down. And still they went up again, like this, you know, like observing mode, but not anymore this. I mean, I have to say I'm quite safe here. I think it would be very hard to get the virus and being sort of alone in the middle of nowhere. but still, you know, in this regard, I was reminded when in 1997 there was the big earthquake where the cathedral of Assisi was a part fell down, no? And I was very near there, and I had a course. And when the big thing came, we were outside, but you know, you could feel it quite strongly. And I observed the people. Many were really stiff by panic. They didn't even know the rules that Italians should know. What do you need to do when there is an earthquake, because that happens quite often. And at a certain point, I just checked, there was a statue on the church. That wouldn't fall on me, even if it falls. And I was on the street, so I couldn't fall down into, you know, another story of a house or something. And then I was open to the experience. And that was an experience which I thought, wow, such a force, the earth moving in this force that goes through your body, through everything, you know. And I found it really great, you know, and leaning on a railing, you could feel the earth vibrations coming up, even if it was not moving anymore on the surface. And other people were all like this, you know. So I think this is now the same situation, and it might also be a learning curve for people to learn to guide their emotions in some way, you know. Be realistic on one side, not under or overestimate. Oh, Gina, okay, and but not enter into panic mode when there is no reason for it, you know. And even if there's a reason for it, panic mode is never good. So, just my experience of that, and I think I have learned a little bit because I'm quite prone to, you know, emotional exaggeration. So, but I'm grateful. So my question was, did you observe also a sequence in your living this situation, in your perception and in your emotional state?
Well, from my perspective, my normal reaction to crises is actually to go intellectual, to get that control back, because your emotional is the one you wants to take over, but the sooner you can get any sort of control, it calms the emotion. So I would say my little panic happened before the Navy sent us all home, which was on the 13th of March. And I said to my husband, I think I want you to go and make sure we have 2 weeks worth of food, so that if we have to self-isolate, which is what the Navy also expected, we have to self-isolate, we can not burden anyone else. So we did not buy excess, but we wanted to reduce the time we went to the grocery shopping then. And we were very careful to not take too much like some people were doing. So that gave a sense of control and a sense of calm, because we have enough in our food supply chains. It's just that people's reaction, the Canadians buying toilet paper, it's like we're world famous for our hang-ups with toilet paper. It just, once you feel like you're safer, then you have a lot of control. And at first when we were walking and we were told by our medical officer of health, keep your distance, people were laughing at us. Okay, we didn't care. We moved away and we just kept doing it. And there's been a tremendous change in behavior here as people have hoisted in that we're serious about this movement. And we are very clear when we walk. We make very early and big movement. So it's absolutely certain that long before we approach, that this is what we're gonna do. So my panic was more about, my husband had been to a conference, I'd been to a nail salon with maybe not the best wiping down everything, and I thought I need to make sure I'm safe and for 2 weeks and self-isolate and not burden my friends at this time, and then that was calm. So I've actually felt calmness ever since. That's it for me.
To start with, I was slightly worried because I'd just come back from the north of Italy in February, when it had started, not where I was, but not far away. And so the first 2 weeks I was kind of thinking, oh, let's see what's going on, you know, but I was all right. And then people who started complaining about it, I got very cross with them. And I said, well, at least we have a house to be in. Think of a, you know, we're not on the border between Turkey and Greece. We're not refugees. We're not homeless. We have a house to be in. We are quite safe, you know. And so I got very angry with people who were sort of complaining about this, because I thought, I always think that we are extremely privileged. And I haven't really worried, but I'm having quite a few nightmares, and that made me think, maybe I do worry without wanting to, because I'm dreaming a lot of things lately, which you know, like really quite frightening things happening to me. Mainly things that I do wrong, and I woke up this morning at 3 o'clock and I thought, well, I haven't done anything wrong as far as I know. Why do I feel like this? So obviously you know, you can't control everything. So that's what happens, you know, because it does come out one way or the other. And so I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my dreams.
Ella, write them down and then we can talk about it. I love to talk about dreams. It's really a passion of mine.
So I did have a dream like that, Ella. And I had a dream where I was shopping downtown in Victoria, and there was all these people at the mall, and I was walking through the mall going, none of these people are social distancing, but why am I here? I don't need to be here. And so it was like I was in my dream doing something wrong, and I was like, you don't need no clothes, you have everything you need, calm down, don't go shopping.
I do have had some interesting dreams lately, and one of them was totally related to the coronavirus. So my work was impacted, and so I've been searching for work, and it's definitely difficult to find work. I get interviews, but many places have like a hiring freeze, so they're not hiring or not moving forward, and who knows when. And so that's been very stressful. And one of the dreams I had was that the person interviewing or hiring told me in the dream, he said something like, is there anything else other than coronavirus written in your resume? Like it was literally that specific. And so I was like, wow, I am stressing over this. And I do believe that dreams are problem solvers. So things that we do not get to solve during our awake state, that the mind keeps trying to solve it for us at night. And it's, I think, a good way to process. But yeah, I definitely did notice for myself, I went through the phase of denial when one of my friends told me people are just going like stressing out over toilet paper at Costco, and I said, why toilet paper and water bottles? And so it hadn't clicked yet because it hadn't arrived here in California. It was still something that it was only in China. And then we were with my coworkers, we were kind of making fun of it, like, well, we survived all the viruses. I'm sure we'll get over this. We'll no need to worry about toilet paper. And then when I got the email from my work that the schools had to be closed and all of that, and that's when I felt like literally my finger shaking, and I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Because it's like this sense of security is taken away because of the finances, and how am I gonna figure it out? And I've been able to get some support, and I've been able to look at things and just to kind of step back a little bit. But it's definitely one of those things, like for me, it happened quickly, having that going from denial to the awareness. And I feel like now I'm working more towards the acceptance part of this is our new norm. And with that also comes a sense of grieving of the collective loss in some ways, and also the loss of people, because there's people who are dying, and I'm very sensitive, and I do feel that that pain when it comes up. And so I do try to hold space for the grief, which is easier, I notice, but it's a little harder for the anxiety. Like that sensation is really difficult. But I do appreciate you, Heidi, mentioning about being open to that experience with the earthquake, because maybe that's what I need to be more curious and open when the sensations come, because I tend to resist, and the more I resist, I tend to suffer a little longer, because I'm not allowing myself to be open to receiving those sensations and feelings as they are, without me either adding to the story or creating additional suffering. But I definitely accepting the situation, that it is what it is, and not in denial. I wish I was in denial, because I see people in denial, they're pretty numb, and then I'm like, I don't want to deal with anxiety, so numb could be probably good, but not really, because if I'm in acceptance, that means I'm being socially responsible for myself and other people. So I'm grateful for my feelings and where I am. So thank you.
So my life didn't change that much the last weeks, but what have changed is something inside that I realize in these last weeks, I really have no control about what will happen about my life, over my life. And that's the first time that I really have to admit that. You know, it was always like that, but I didn't, I didn't really accept that I can't control the things around me. I'm a man, maybe I'm more like that, that I have to have the feeling I can control everything. And in this last period, I really learned to live a good life without having the need to control everything. And that's really a new experience, that I can feel fine, even if I have the feeling I can control nothing at all. And that's, for me, especially as a man, I would say, that's the first time in my age, you know, that I'm in a situation like that, and I don't get crazy. I feel more or less, yeah, like you said in the beginning, something is falling down from my shoulders. I can, yeah, I don't have to save the situation or to save the world. I can't, and it is like that, and it's fine. And I'm still feel okay.
I'm glad to hear that, Volker. It's a very good exercise, that, to learn that you are not in control. I've learned a lot from young people, my grandchildren. They always respond, whatever. You know, when you say something, I think, that's right, whatever. Whatever happens will happen. I'll give you another. My mother had a saying, which I've always lived by. When you asked her, what do you think I should do? Should I do this or should I do that? And she just looked at me and she said, whichever way you turn, you've always got your bottom behind.
As I mentioned before, I got this soul matrix thing. And also with the typologies, lately we have talked in the German group a lot about typologies and Enneagram, for instance, and others. It seems that we are much less in control of our lives than we ever thought. You know, that so many things are not fixed, but the tendency that it would go this way is obviously in many aspects given for your life. And so I think it's, in a spiritual sense, it's getting easier for me to think, oh, it's okay as it is. Probably it's meant to be like this. It could have been, in the material way, it could have been different, but what the essence of what is happening is all right. And probably you needed to learn that. And in the past, when I look back in my life, there were so many situations where afterwards I thought, that's what I needed. Okay, now I see it. While when you are inside of it, often it's horrible, no? But then later you understand. And I'm grateful.
I think your cat's trying to tell you something.
Yeah, this is the one who is hungry, which I try not to give to food, because otherwise he will go out and wake me during the night. So I keep him until a little later, and then I close him in the bedroom and with his food.
I think it's interesting what you mentioned about this spiritual aspect, Heidi, because one of the things that I notice is that there is a lot of mystery in terms of what's unfolding and a lot of unknowns. And I'm the type of person that definitely wants to know what's going to happen tomorrow and what's going to happen next. And it's like I'm learning to one, be more patient, and know that that we don't know what's going to happen in a month or maybe 2 months or 3 months. We don't know. And so I feel that I had to be open to that sense of mystery and what will unfold. I was supposed to help a family doing some nanny work starting tomorrow. And the family I used to help, the mom happens to be a doctor. So I was feeling a little nervous because she still sees patients a little bit, like 90% of the time she's working at home, but she still sees patients. So I was feeling a little anxious about that. And so I was open to it. I said I'll take it one day at a time, being willing to help. It will help me too. And yesterday I received a phone call from her, and she basically tells me, I feel really bad, but my ex-husband was just laid off from his job and he'll be able to help me with the kids. I'm so sorry, but I'm not gonna need your help, maybe sporadically, but I cannot guarantee you hours. And my response was, well, it's okay, don't worry about it. And I texted my sisters, two of my sisters who I was sharing about the process with them. And both of them, it was just interesting that my response at the end was, I guess is God's way or God's will, I don't know, or something like that. And both of them said something along the lines, God works in very mysterious ways. And I was like, oh my God, both of you guys are on the same wavelength. So it was just interesting just to notice, to be open to that. Like, I don't know why or how is it that things are lining up that way, but just to be open to that mystery and to things to be revealed. And maybe I'm dreading something bad, and maybe we will get like a beautiful blossoming thing out of this. That's my hope. So I'm open to that for sure.
I wanted to go to the Integral European Conference in May. And one of the things I wanted to bring was the characteristics of co-creative dialogue. And one, for instance, what we figured out is to be comfortable with silence. Not to need to jump in all the time, what we were experiencing now.
Or of doing nothing.
I saw a rather rude video yesterday that is supposed to stay calm and carry on. I won't use the word, but it was basically an English video, and it basically said, do nothing. Go home, do nothing. And said, you know, we're very good at nothing. And now that we're mandated to do nothing, go home and do nothing. So do nothing. I thought it was kind of fun.
It's another thing, no? People, including me, often think, oh, if I had time for this and maybe I do it later, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as you have the time, you don't do it, but you always thought you would do. No? It's just, for me, it's so exciting to understand the human way of being, you know, the how people tick. So, including myself, logically. We are so full of contradictions. That's amazing. And sometimes I really laugh at myself, mainly.
One thing that I noticed for myself was that I tend to keep very busy, and sometimes it is difficult for me to slow down. And so I noticed that even in the middle of being at home, I was getting myself tired, whether it was trying to work too much on an art project or joining too many like online circles and things like that. And that was exhausting for me in some ways. And so I had to kind of reflect on why I was doing that to myself. Like, was I doing it because I needed the social interaction, or was I doing it because I was avoiding a part of myself that I needed to pay attention to? Like, even with my art projects, as much as I love the creativity, it was like 9 o'clock and I'm still kind of going at it. And I'm like, okay, I'm very busy, but am I avoiding something internally? And so for me, I think that's good to remember that, like how my own sense of distractions can be a way of avoidance from the internal, which I need to tend to as well. So I think that's good reflection for myself. Like, why am I busy? Or kind of asking myself, why am I doing this? And also, am I being loving to myself? Is the action I'm taking right now being a loving thing? Because I think I need to be more loving and gentle with myself, because it's easy for me to do it outward, but it's more difficult to do it inward. And so just a reminder for myself that I'm just as worthy as other people are, and I don't always believe that. And so I think it's important for me to acknowledge that. Yeah.
I'm a little bit like you in that I'm always the busy person, and I say I put 10 pounds of dirt in a 5-pound bag. This is my personal list. This is my business list. Plus I have work. So in this time of reflection and relaxing down, I'm like, but I'm still working full time remotely, but I'm still working. And so I've got back maybe about an hour to choose. So my personal give back is, okay, what's the most important thing you want to do today? And for me, it's like, well, my calm comes from weeding my garden, which is huge. It's like Heidi's, it's like monstrously huge. Or today, no matter what, at the end of the day, I'm going to polish the silver napkin rings because they're tarnished, and I never used to let them get tarnished. And it's just a little thing, and saying it's okay not to get the list done is a part of that for me. And I would have thought, for instance, I play the harp. I would have thought I'd be spending hours playing the harp. I'm barely touching it. My teacher would be very upset with me. But the thing I'm also hoping is, we know that our attention span was constantly decreasing. And we're always on the flick, 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 flick. And I think we're down to about 5 seconds or so of attention span. And yet we know that to concentrate takes 40 minutes to get the concentration level. And that the moment you interrupt it, you restart the clock. So one of the things that I've tried to do is not do many things at one time, just one thing for a long time, and not pay attention to all the little things, so that I get into that deeper relaxation. And I hope for our children and for others that this ability to concentrate again will come to us.
I love how we are talking. We did already on Wednesday a talk, and it went differently, and it's great to explore things even from another perspective. And we are almost on the top of the hour, so I would, whoops, Volker has disappeared. I would wanted to invite you to do a sort of summary of what do you take away from our conversation, and whatever, just to check out. Hopefully Volker comes back again. That would be nice to say goodbye, but we just start, okay?
Can I just quote, I was reading about Martin Luther King today, amongst other things. He said, "We are caught in an inseparable network of mutuality. whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And I thought that was very nicely put. That's my goodbye.
I would say thank you, Heidi, for doing this, first of all. I'm very appreciative that you brought this group together, and I think that we come together because we feel there's something that will come good of this. So my reflection really was just very much enjoying the comments that everybody else had, and that is that we are conscious of our role, whether it's working ourselves or helping our planet or our community, but we seem to be conscious of it, and for that I'm grateful.
Volker, we are sort of doing the checkout, saying what's important still needs to be said or something.
Okay, I don't know if you realized I missed a bit. I was off for a while, so we are just checking out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I like to be in this Zoom meetings, just in these times now, but even before I was a lot in Zooms, just as you said, Gina, to get this feeling, we are all together, we think together, we have, in this way, I really have so much hope that we can create a new world together. And that's my aim.
I'll go next. Just want to express gratitude for each one of you. I'm very grateful for what you have shared with me, and I feel this sense of connectedness to you, even though we're far from each other. And I do want to tell Wagner that it took a little courage to be around only women, because sometimes guys just run out, and you stayed, so that's good. And so part of my reflection is, how can I move forward in with this mystery unfolding with a sense of purpose and being able to contribute to help other people, not just myself. So thank you. And thank you, Heidi.
Yeah, thank you everybody too. And I wonder, maybe in 2 weeks we could meet again and see how we are going on. What I really appreciate is the authenticity, the openness with which you all have shared what's inside and what your ideas are. I think this is a different way of talking together, you know, and I really do hope that this will develop more among people, so that it's a completely different level of consciousness anyway, but of being together. And yeah, and we are already doing this, so we are already contributing, and thanks to you. Because if I stood here alone with my picture behind me, I couldn't do all that. I need the people to talk to. I'm grateful that Ella is here around. She's the only one with whom I can really talk this way. And we have interesting topics to talk about. And the rest of my conversation people are on internet. And I'm so grateful that we have internet, that we have a platform like Zoom. Before I was on Hangouts. Otherwise, I would probably feel like buried in nature somehow. Also, I really do like to be in nature. It's wonderful. So thank you very much. And I will send you a follow-up letter next week, and we will see if we find an appointment. Okay.
Thank you very much, Heidi. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening, day over there, over the pond. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Ciao.